Tom, great performance by Wexford, but I think the word that we'd all use today, probably definitely use a Wexford man, is relief.
Oh yeah, Sinead. I can't imagine that people even outside Wexford would realise the angst and the worry that we went through this week because leading up to the game, last week was a kind of something that happened. I put it after the game with Westmeath that it was almost like walking down the beach on a lovely summer's day, everything going well, and all of a sudden you're up to your neck in quicksand. And that's the way it felt all week, that we were still stuck in that quicksand. So there was a huge worry going into this game because traditionally Wexford, for my lifetime and for a lot of people's lifetimes, has been in the Leinster Championship. The danger of us going out of that today was almost unimaginable. And I think what's important, Sinead, for people to realise about Wexford hurling as well, just walking in here, and you're a Wexford woman yourself, the kids with the hurleys, the crowd that were here today, people love their hurling down here, and it's nothing to do with success really, because we haven't been that successful, 2 All-Irelands in the last 50 years or whatever. But to take away the chance of an All-Ireland would have been like, I don't know, taking away part of our lives. So I just can't tell you how relieved and how delighted I am. The result was everything today, but what we actually got was probably one of the classic games of hurling that I've ever seen in Wexford Park, or that I've seen for a good number of years.
And the thing about it, Tom, I think as well, is that at the end of the day, you're going at the end of the game, you're kind of going, wow, like that's a shock, but yet it isn't, because Wexford are always able to put it up to Kilkenny. So last year in Nolan Park and today as well. But you have to ask, why weren't they able to get that performance for Westmeath? Why weren't they able to get that performance against Dublin, even against Antrim? Like, they only bet Antrim by 4 points. So, what is it that prevented them from being able to put in that performance all season? But yet today they were able to do it.
Yeah, I think a necessity made it that we had to do it today, a kind of switch. I think there are a couple of things, Sinead. One is that the intensity we had today was just incredible, and I mean that's always there for Kilkenny. We always have maybe a slight belief that over the last number of years we've had a fairly good record against Kilkenny, and there was a belief that that could be there. I think there was a couple of things. Diarmuid O'Keefe didn't start our last 2 games. We did question that. There's no point in saying otherwise. Probably man of the match out there today. Kevin Foley likewise, was just outstanding, wasn't playing the last day. So maybe people wouldn't have been overly happy with the selection process over the last couple of weeks. And that's not blaming anybody, because we all have our decisions on that. That was one factor. I think the other factor really was that we've been talking about the traditional type game. I just to maybe digress slightly, I'm in my late 50s now. I always say that, but I remember a couple of years ago, there was a change in RT, and they came in, and sorry for mentioning arrival stage, they came in and they said that basically people of an older era don't really understand the modern game. And I felt maybe that some of us are seen as dinosaurs, because we felt getting the ball into the square quickly was an important thing, delivering the ball quickly, moving the ball quickly, playing long. It was part of the game as much as praying through the lines. For me, what I'm absolutely delighted was today we went the way I feel Wexford hurling should have been played. We planted Lee Chin on the edge of the square. We had Conor Mack on the edge of the square. We struck long ball into them. We took route one, and we got the goals that really kind of got us through today. So for me, there's a couple of things. Obviously, I'm so delighted we got through. But the other thing is the old style of play. I don't feel such a dinosaur over particularly even looking at Carlow yesterday. Carlow and Offaly, it was like the traditional hurling was played. So I don't feel as bad today. And to be honest with you, I never felt bad for being a traditionalist. But I think some people feel that we're outdated in their views on hurling. And the last couple of days, between Carlow winning yesterday and Wexford doing what they did today, I don't think we are that outdated in our views. And that mightn't even be answering your question, but I do believe we changed our style of play today.
And Tom, Wexford have been saved from relegation. They're going to play in Leinster next year. But does this kind of taper over the cracks a bit now today? Like, they beat Kilkenny, but there's still a lot to look at there. There's still a lot to be concerned about where Wexford hurling is concerned. So are you confident that there is going to be an overhaul, and that everything is going to be looked at? Are we going to go back to basics really in Wexford, do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a fair point. Look, what we're going to do next, I think it'll take us to about Wednesday to actually get the lump out of our stomach that had to be got out today because we were so worried about it. There's no doubt that we have to look at a lot of the things that we're doing wrong. We shouldn't have been in the position we're in. I think one of the main things you said there was consistency. We went out, hurled really well in the first half against Westmeath last week. We had a 16, 17 point lead at one stage. That's 6 goals nearly. And we went out in the second half and it was a completely different Wexford. We went out today and for the first maybe 15, 20 minutes we were under a bit of pressure. Then we went and we hurled heroically. So I just think we need to get that consistency into our game. I think maybe the changes, we need to realise that there are cracks there and we need to kind of address those issues. And I think there's one thing today showed, we're probably as good as most teams in Leinster, but we need to make sure that we're competing well against most teams. And that's, I would say, for maybe the winter now and kind of looking at that, but we need to address that. There's no doubt about that, Sinead, and I don't know what's going to happen over the next week or whatever, but the one thing for me today, and I've just such an admiration for some of the leaders on our pitch out there. I was just coming into the game and saying, I hope these guys come up, but Liam Ryan, the elder statesman now at this stage, Liam Ryan, Matthew O'Hanlon in the last 20 minutes, Lee Chin did things today that I said was almost unimaginable. He was just outstanding, and for me it's probably been one of the greatest hurlers we've produced for the last 25, 30 years. He was just outstanding. Go up along Liam McGovern, two goals, 2 cruciates, Sinead. He's had to suffer, and I know what that's like because I have a daughter plays camogie, has it now. It's an incredible rehab. He's went through 2. And he came out there today, and when things weren't going well, he really threw his shoulder to the wheel. What an amazing player. Diarmuid O'Keefe, another guy, Diarmuid sat out the last 2 games basically. Not so sure that was a good idea. Diarmuid O'Keefe was man of the match possibly today. Just an outstanding player and an intelligent player. Kevin Foley played against Dublin. He was started today and had a brilliant game. Goal and 2 points I think in the first half. So from my own point of view, I think we got a lot of things right today that we weren't getting right all through the year. And I think team selection was one of it. Type of style was the second thing, and really hurling is not that complicated a game, and I think it was very important that we kind of showed that today.
You mentioned some of the lads that really stood up today, Lee Chin, Dee O'Keefe, Kevin Foley, they all really made a great contribution, but you'll remember last week, Tom, that the same players were called gutless, spineless. Yeah. That must have really hurt as a Wexford man to hear that.
It did, and look, when you lose a game the way we lost it last week, but I will say this, I know these guys are not what you've referred to. I wouldn't even use the word in the same region of these guys. I've seen what they've put into Wexford hurling over the last number of years, and they've given us such good days. Last Sunday was a mud fest. I won't use the other word. In that we didn't do well, but I knew there was character in these guys. And I'm just looking down at the programme here, and I'm sorry that we're not talking about Kilkenny enough, because they're a great team as well. But I look down through Jack O'Connor, Rory O'Connor, Conor Mack, guys like that. Conor Devitt. They all deserve mention. But I just think that, and just one thing that maybe epitomised how we played today. Oisin Foley, Kilkenny had an almost certain goal. It would have been their 3rd goal in the first 20 minutes. Oisin Foley chased from his own half forward line to the full back line, and he stopped the goal being scored. And it was that kind of thing that made such a difference. Yes, there's no doubt. I think we maybe got into complacency last week. We need to get that every day. But for now, that's a very, very important thing for us. I mean, I think that was really exemplified today, and thank God it was. The other thing I was going to say, Sinead, and I wasn't going to say this if we'd been beaten, because people would be just saying, look, Tom, you go ahead, sure, you're bitter and you're gone down to Joe McDonagh and etc., and it's your own fault. Yes, we put ourselves in the position. But today, Wexford played Kilkenny, and you were here. It was one of the most atmospheric grounds I've ever been in, given that everything was just fantastic. The crowd, the Wexford crowd, big Kilkenny crowd here. In fairness to Kilkenny, they're the most honest people in the world. Kilkenny don't want Wexford not to be in Leinster, but they weren't going to, not play to their potential. And as a fella said to me after the game, he said they came down, he said, to put the lid on the coffin. It wasn't that Kilkenny hurled badly. They were brilliant in the first 20 minutes. But we had a game that had everything today, and I always felt that the big story of the GA would have come out of that today, whether it be Wexford's dedication and fantastic performance, or our, I suppose, debt into the next generation of hurling. That was going to be the thing. But not one station, and I said that a couple of years ago, we were told that, there was going to be great GA and whatever, but now RTE didn't show this live, or GA Go didn't give they didn't even give people a chance to pay to see the game today. People that couldn't come to the game today. And if that's doing hurling in Wexford or in Leinster any good, I'm not. I just think it needs to be called out at this stage. We have had no game televised this year to public in Wexford on national free-to-air broadcasting, and I just think it should not continue. And I hear people saying you've no right to have it. We're in playing the top-tier hurling. We're trying to promote the game down here in Wexford, and we really have been let down so badly. And anyone that knows anything about hurling or a selection of hurling games would know that Kilkenny and Wexford are not a game that shouldn't be shown to everybody, because in general they're just brilliant games over the last number of years, and the stakes were so high down here today. I mean, the stakes were just incredible for us, maybe not so much for Kilkenny, but we have been badly served by the people that promote the game and that show the game on our national airwaves.
And I know that that's something that you feel very passionately about, and I know that you've spoken about it at length before, Tom. I just want to bring up something else that you said there about the atmosphere here in the stadium today. Big crowd turned out for Wexford, big Kilkenny support as well, but Wexford supporters had been criticised last week when, I think they were outnumbered 4-1 by Offaly supporters for the under-20 Leinster final. So do you think that, I know today they showed up, but has enthusiasm been dwindling in the county, do you think?
I think, if you look back over the last 6 months or 4 months, 5 months, whatever it's been this year, we haven't been playing well. And to be honest with you, people will follow what they find attractive to look at. But I think it's maybe a little bit harsh to call out people because, you don't know the financial constraints, etc. I think overall, if we take it overall, Wexford supporters are amongst the best in the country. They're amongst the most loyal. They will miss matches and whatever. The Westmeath game last week maybe wasn't the most attractive game for them to attend. But I think overall, Wexford supporters are just fantastic. And I just like to say very clearly, you were here today, Sinead. There was a 16th man. I get even a little bit emotional when I talk about it. Maybe a 17th man there. But there were people literally, emotionally just willing the team on in the stand. And for me, Wexford supporters are fantastic. And I tell you this, I'm not so sure we wouldn't have won the game only Wexford supporters turned out so in such numbers today. Like Offaly supporters in the 20. Yes, like I have to be honest, I couldn't attend the Offaly game, the under-20 game the other night because I had work commitments. Some people can't just leave at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and go to a match. So look, we have to take everything into account. For me, Wexford supporters have been fantastic. For me, Leinster needs Wexford supporters badly because we probably on our day we had 44,000 at the 2017 Leinster final. 44,000 tickets sold in Wexford. You don't get that in every Leinster county for hurling. So I think, we were making a call, and I know Micheál Martin did very well during the week trying to bring people out. We can't doubt their commitment to Wexford. I mean, it's not based on success because we haven't won that much. I just thought today, let's talk about today. They were just fantastic. I mean, I don't know how you felt about the atmosphere today, but it was just a very emotional atmosphere, and I just think they were just fantastic today, and well done to them, and thanks to them. They're always there, and they've seen a lot of bad days as well.
Yeah, and we have to give our credit to Kilkenny as well. It was a fantastic game. You mentioned there they made a great start to the game, 2 goals within the space of 6 minutes. Wexford managed to kind of claw their way back, and then it was nip for tuck, towards the end. But Kilkenny very unlucky not to get over the line. But what they will see as a positive, I think, Tom, is the amount of goals that they put by Wexford today, and they had been struggling up to this point in the Leinster Championship to score goals. So that's definitely a positive for Derek Ling. I know he's probably licking his wounds going back to Kilkenny, but amount of goals scored is definitely a positive for them.
They're outstanding. Sinead, there had to be a bigger will for Wexford to win the game today than Kilkenny. Kilkenny had nothing really to benefit from it. But you heard when Kilkenny got the first 2 goals, there was a fair roar in the stand. They were down here, as I say. They were down here to win, and you will never have any messing or fooling with Kilkenny. They'll come down to win the game, and they came down today. If there was a transfer market market in the morning, Owen Cody, if we were looking at a kind of a soccer analogy, Owen Cody would be worth 500 million, and probably getting 300,000 a week. Some of his finishing were just fantastic. And, some of the players, I'm looking at the programme, but Tom Phelan, I think he got a goal in 4 points. He was
outstanding today.
Yeah, and they turn out these new players, and they're just fantastic from that point of view. Martin Keown, I think the biggest worry they'll have is the likes of maybe Mikey Butler going off injured, Tommy Keown, but Tommy Keown got a brilliant goal. And the Wexford goals were brilliant, but the Kilkenny goals were absolutely brilliant. It had everything that you want in a hurling game, and I just think what a travesty to deprive people at home that are not able to come in to watch this game, to deprive them of watching the game. I don't think that's fair. It's our national game. I don't believe that we do have a right to see that on television. I see people say you don't have a right to have it. Of course we have a right. It's our national game, the most exciting thing you could watch today. And I just think that Kilkenny won't worry too much about that. They're in the Leinster final. They're going to be playing Galway. I think that the narrative of Wexford and Kilkenny over the last couple of years is we've beaten them, but Kilkenny have went further in the All-Ireland, and they'll be happy enough if that continues, But just coming down, and I think something that's very, very important, and talking to Nicky Brennan, talking to Adrian Rowan and Michael Walsh, I love Kilkenny hurling. We want to beat them, and there's a rivalry there. But they agreed with me on one thing that I said, that if Wexford had lost today, not only would Wexford hurling have died today, and I'm not saying we would have had to pick up the pieces and come back, but Leinster hurling would have died today in my book if Wexford had lost, because we really can't afford within Leinster to lose a county like Wexford out of that. I'm not saying I hope I see Offaly in it over the next while, the likes of the Carlos and whatever, but I do think it would have done serious damage to Leinster hurling. That's one of the 55-fold reasons that I'm a happy man this evening, Sinead, and I know you are as well, but I was just delighted. And from the game itself out there were acts of genius out there. I'm watching TJ Reid out there, I'm watching Hugh Lawler, I'm watching Owen Murphy making a save that, God almighty, you'd say to yourself, Owen, would you just go home and leave us alone here? Just what a save he made in the second half. The game weaved and bobbed. We went 7 down, they went 7 down, they went 2 up, we came back. The stand was almost shaking here, and the far side. It had everything, and we're just happy to get out, thank God, and looking forward to next year. But you're right, Sinead, we do need to have probably a very big look at where we're going and what we're doing.
Finally, Tom, a lot of people were calling for Darragh Egan's head during the week. Do you think this win today will save him from being axed maybe from Wexford? And I'm not trying to be funny when I say that, but a lot of people were very serious when they said we think Darragh Egan needs to go. What are your opinions on that, or what do you think? Do you think we will see Darragh Egan as Wexford manager next year?
Yeah, I think it hasn't been a good year, and there's no point in papering over that. I think that Darragh and his selectors obviously will have to make their own call first, and then I think it'll be part of the cracks, the problems that we have. That's obviously the authorities that be, and that's not giving you a fair answer, but I think it's nearly too early to even be talking about that at this stage, and they'll have to look at it. There's no point in saying this game was very important, but I do believe that we are good enough not to be in this position. I think it needs to be discussed during the week. But as for today, well done to Darragh Egan, well done to Willie Cleary. I'd say it was a tough place for the boys to be. I mean, I've been over teams myself. I remember a number of years ago I was over, and I was lucky enough to be over the likes of Liam Ogue, Mark Fanning, all that group, Matthew O'Hanlon, when they were minor, and effectively I have to take full responsibility that we lost an All-Ireland, or probably an All-Ireland minor championship because of some of the decisions we made. So sometimes I think that maybe it's a very lonely place to be. It took me about 6 months to get over that. So it is a very, very tough position to be, and I know it's for an amateur people, it is a tough place to be. I think we'll enjoy the victory tonight. We've gotten out of jail. They have to make their thoughts about it. We have to look at the year as a whole, not just today, and then make our decisions going forward, whatever is going to be the best for Wexford hurling.